In today's video, we are going to be breaking down James Wiseman. James Wiseman is the rookie who was drafted by the Golden State Warriors for the second pick in this year's NBA draft. As we all know, the Golden State Warriors are a massively three-point shooting team, and I personally think that they will force James Wiseman eventually to stretch it out to the three-point line. Can he do it? Well, today we're going to be breaking down his shooting form from his rookie year, or pre-rookie year. Okay, so in this first clip, and only clip we really have of him, the most current clip that we currently can find is this one. He gathers the ball at his hips, which is something that a lot of players do. Nothing wrong about that at all. That's basically where you should be picking it up. From there, he brings it from in front of his hips. Instead of moving it over like Klay Thompson and then up, we have him move it straight up into his set point from in front of his hips. But the first thing that we really want to look at is his feet. He is a left-handed shooter, and most left-handed shooters tend to have their feet facing away from the rim. I personally think this is a more comfort thing that a lot of left-handed players do, because you really want to find a shooting form that is comfortable for you and that works for you. But there are a few things that you need to do to have a consistent shot. We're going to move up from the feet and look at the knees. And of course, the knees, just like the feet, are not facing the rim, same as the hips and same as the shoulders. This could be because he is one of the stronger players in this year's draft. We're going to move on to the next point, and that is going to be he is looking at the rim, which is very important. This is what a lot of players need to do when you're shooting the ball. When he raises up, his shoulders are what seem to be over top of his knees and over top of his toes, and we see this at the NCAA level as well. When we start looking at some of those types of clips, we do see a lot of mid-range shots that he takes with his shoulders over his knees, over his toes. This is going to allow him to have a nice balanced base. You don't necessarily have to do this. There's different situations where you wouldn't have this happen, but when it comes to balance, this is what you would be looking at doing. From there, he brings that ball up to his set point. From his gather to his set point, he tends to not bend his elbow at all from gather to set point. This is very important. The least amount of movement in your body, especially your elbow, when you're shooting that ball, is going to allow you to have a more consistent shot. The more movement you have in your shot, the worse the shot is going to be, because now you may hit 10 in a row, but if you don't notice that you're moving your elbow more or less than you normally do, you could now miss the next 10, which now still makes you a 50% three-point shooter, but you could be more consistent, which would be helpful. His set point seems to be right over top of his head, which is a Shaq-style shot. Now, of course, I did break down Shaq's shooting form a few days ago, but about a week ago, but this elbow needs to come a bit farther down. I'm not saying this is a bad shooting form, but it's a more inconsistent shooting form. We're all just trying to get more consistent. By having the ball over top of your head, usually what happens is you'll have a flatter shot, and it's not going to have as much arc, which allows it to not be able to bounce in as often. So for example, if we have the rim right here and we have a shot that's coming in at this angle, well, that rim only looks to be this big to the ball. We have that much space. Meanwhile, if we have a shot that is got a high arc and we have a rim still here, that rim now looks to be this big to that ball. You have this much room to score versus this much room to score. That's why you want to have more arc on that ball. Now, his right hand seems to be behind the ball, which, let's see, will that affect his shot? Yes, he does have a thumb flick. Now, there's nothing technically wrong with having a thumb flick. We see players like Kyrie Irving and Steph Curry that have a small thumb flick, but when we are shooting from behind the head or above the head, yes, the elbow is technically in line with the shoulder, in line with the rim. That is good. That is what we really want to see. We want to see the elbow technically underneath the ball, which technically I guess you could say is there because, of course, that is still in line with the net. There's still a straight line between the wrist and the elbow, but the issue here is now with that thumb flick that happens, that pushes the ball out towards that left side and takes away, in most cases, a thumb flick will take away the rotation on the ball. And we do see that here. That thumb does push that ball slightly out towards the left side of his hand, but he's still able to flick with his pointer and middle finger. Now that evens out that ball and does tend to go in a good amount of time. But when you start shooting from the 3-point line, you're going to start seeing a lot of things happen, because when you're shooting those mid-range shots, that's not a very far distance for that ball to travel in the air. When you start seeing small things that can push the ball left or right, when you start going out to the 3-point line, those angles, that just a small minuscule push now really overemphasizes at the end mark, and I would say that his shot will end up either being short because he's shooting from behind his head, or what's going to happen is he's going to have a shot that is going to be really far left in his case because his right thumb is flicking that ball. And that technically could push that ball left, especially with his arm still being totally straight towards the rim. He has that accuracy there, but with that thumb flick, because he's pushing it from behind his head, is going to really overemphasize the ball going left in my thoughts. Now, he is not a very high 3-point shooting player. He's going to a team that is going to be really overemphasizing the 3-point shot. When you start looking at Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Wiggins can shoot competently from the 3-point line, same as Oubre has a pretty good 3-point shot. You're now going to be looking at a player who needs to learn how to shoot because, of course, the Warriors do run a lot of 5-out offense. Of course, they're going to need to change their offense because now they have a killer post player who can absolutely destroy a lot of teams in the low post. So that is my thoughts on, of course, James Wiseman. Hopefully they're going to work on his shot. I think they will. I'll see you guys again next time.